Hello everyone. Welcome back to our news channel. Students, today we have two news topics. Okay? So first, we'll talk about Greenland's new prime minister and why his election matters. Then we'll shift gears and talk about then we'll shift gears to talk about some why some European countries are leaving an important landmine treaty and what it means to the world. So, buckle up and get ready for an exciting learning experience. Now, let's begin with a quick geography lesson. Now, when we talk about Greenland, yes, students, as you can see here on the map, Greenland is the world's largest island. Okay, it's the world's largest island and it is located between the Arctic and Antarctic and Arctic and Atlantic Ocean. Okay, Arctic and Atlantic Ocean. And although it is closer to North America, okay, it is closer to North America, it is actually part of a smaller country called Denmark. Okay, so it is a part of smaller country called Denmark. Yes, as you can see here, see, this is Greenland, but it is controlled by this small country called Denmark. So it is part of a Denmark. However, Greenland is not just a frozen land of ice. It is actually home to around 57,000 people. 57,000 people who are fighting for their identity and future. Okay, so how is Greenland governed? Basically, students, even though Greenland is part of Denmark, okay, it has its own government and parliament. Okay, although it is governed by Denmark, it is part of Denmark, पर उसका खुद की government है, उसका खुद का parliament भी है. So this means that Greenland can make its own rules about things like healthcare, education, and fisheries. But, students, here's a catch. Denmark still, the issue is Denmark still controls the important matters. Okay, Denmark still control important matters like defense, foreign policy, okay, defense, foreign policy, money management, and this arrangement is called self government. What is it called? Self government. Okay, but many Greenlanders want full independence, meaning they want to become a separate country like India or the US, and that's one of the big reasons why elections in Greenland are so important. Okay, so this year what happened, election हुए and Greenland के जो न्यू लीडर हैं Jens Frederick Nielsen was elected as the new prime minister, and his party, called Democratic, won more seats than before, while the old ruling parties lost many seats. So, why did people change? By people vote for change? What is the reason? सी कुछ इश्यूज होते हैं. अब जो इश्यूज लोगों को ठीक लगते हैं, लोग उसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को वोट करते हैं. इंडिया में भी ऐसे ही होता है, तो फॉरेन में भी ऐसे ही होता है. तो तीन इंपॉर्टेंट कंसर्न्स थे. देयर वर थ्री मेजर कंसर्न्स ऑन पीपल्स माइंड. फर्स्ट वाज प्राइमरी. प्राइमरी रीजन क्या हो सकता है? अब आप देखो ना, अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि ग्रीनलैंड इज पार्ट ऑफ डेनमार्क. तो पहला इंपॉर्टेंट क्या होगा रीजन? पहला इंपॉर्टेंट कंसर्न क्या होगा? ऑफ कोर्स इंडिपेंडेंस, है ना? सो one of the primary concerns for voters was independence. Okay, many Greenlanders want to break away from Denmark, but there's a problem. Greenland still depends a lot on Denmark for money and support. So the big question is, how can Greenland stand on its own? अभी भी अगर मनी पे डिपेंडेंट है डेनमार्क पे, तो कैसे अपने आप को कैसे इंडिपेंडेंट बन सकते हैं? ओके. Secondly, healthcare problems. People in Greenland felt that hospitals and medical care were not good enough. So the new prime minister promised to change how money is spent on healthcare so that more goes directly to patient care rather than administration. है ना? तो एक ये चीज का भी उन्होंने वादा किया कि भाई हेल्थ केयर भी इम्प्रूव किया जाएगा, है ना, क्योंकि मेजर कंसर्न था. राइट, सो हेयर यू कैन सी. And then, third key concern was frustration over the fishing industry. See, fishing is the backbone of Greenland's economy. Unki backbone hai ye, because it provides jobs and money. But new rules under the previous government made it difficult for seaport exporters, so which upset many fishermen. Okay, तो इन तीन मुद्दों पर ये वाली जो न्यू प्राइम मिनिस्टर है उनका इलेक्शन वो जीते हैं. ओके, बट कुछ चैलेंजेस हैं अभी भी, जैसे नियल्सन नाउ ही इज इन चार्ज, है ना. सो कौन कौन से चैलेंजेस हैं? सबसे पहले तो इकोनॉमी, बिकॉज ग्रीनलैंड मेक्स मोस्ट ऑफ इट्स मनी फ्रॉम फिशिंग, है ना. सो इट नीड्स टू फाइंड अदर वेज टू ग्रो. And the new leader is looking at tourism and mining for valuable metals like rare earth and rare earth elements which are used in making electronics. तो different avenues खोजे जा रहे हैं कि वहां पर भी इकोनॉमी सस्टेन कर सके. Secondly, public services. Schools, hospitals, and roads in Greenland need improvement. So, government must figure out how to provide better services without relying too much on Denmark's support. Okay, and then there's also foreign pressure. See, US, China, and Russia, they are all interested in Greenland. Reason being, its strategic location in the Arctic. Okay, as you can see, its location. And just few days back, we have covered an important article in about Arctic region, right? So that is why all these countries are also interested in Greenland. And new prime minister must handle relations carefully to protect Greenland's interest. Okay, now you might be thinking, why should we care about Greenland's selection? Well, students, Greenland's location makes it super important in global politics. The US has military bases there, China wants to invest in mining, and Russia has increased its Arctic activities. So, this means that whatever happens in Greenland affects many powerful countries. Okay, now, students, let's move on to our second big topic that we have today. Okay, so this topic is regarding Ottawa Convention. Ottawa Convention, also known as Mine Ban Treaty. Okay, Mine Ban Ban Treaty. Treaty matlab agreement. Okay, so yes, so this is an international agreement signed by more than 160 countries to stop the use of landmines. Okay, to stop the use of what? Ban कर रहा है ना, तो ban का मतलब क्या है? Stop the use of landmines. But wait, what exactly are landmines? Students, landmines are explosive devices. Okay, they are explosive devices buried in the ground, and they explode when someone steps on them. So it can cause serious injuries or even death. Okay, and these weapons don't just harm soldiers in war, they remain in the ground for years and it can endanger civilians, especially children, क्योंकि children जैसे खेलते हैं प्लेग्राउंड में, है ना, कभी कभी वो एक्सप्लोर करने भी जाते हैं, so it can cause serious injuries. Moreover, students, these weapons don't just uh, you know सिर्फ सोल्जर्स को ही हार्म नहीं करते, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, तो इस सिविलियंस को भी नुकसान पहुंचा सकते हैं. एंड दैट्स व्हाई द ओटावा कन्वेंशन वाज क्रिएटेड इन द ईयर 1997. तो 1997 में ओटावा कन्वेंशन को ये बनाया गया था, राइट. It was created in 1997 to ban the use, production and stockpiling of these deadly weapons. कि भाई इनका पूरा ही प्रोडक्शन रोक देना चाहिए, इनका यूज नहीं करना चाहिए. 1997 में ये ट्रीटी साइन हुआ था. ओके. Now, what's the news? Why we are talking about Ottawa Convention? See, recently, 5 countries, Poland, Finland, and the 3 Baltic states, Poland, Finland, and 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, decided to leave this treaty. They all share borders, or they are close to Russia. Okay, so why are they making this decision now? See, there are many reasons. सबसे बड़ा reason तो क्या है? रशिया का military threat. These countries are worried that Russia might attack them, and just like it invaded Ukraine in 2022. So they believe landmines could be useful for protecting their borders. That is why they decided to leave this convention. Secondly, with Russia-Ukraine war, it has shown the world that traditional defense methods might not be enough. So these countries feel that they need landmines to slow down enemy movements. Okay, because we are seeing changing war strategies now. Okay. Thirdly, countries are, they are leaving the treaty because after they have noticed that some powerful countries, powerful nations like Russia, US, China, India, Israel, they have never fully committed to banning landmines. So they believe staying in the treaty puts them at disadvantage. क्योंकि जब ये कंट्रीज ही नहीं फॉलो कर रही हैं, ये इन कंट्रीज ने ही पूरी तरह रेटिफाई नहीं किया है, तो हम क्यों इस ट्रीटी में रहें, ऐसा उनका मानना है. ओके. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस व्हेन कंट्रीज लीव द ट्रीटी? When any country decide that they're going to leave this treaty, what happens? See, landmines, when we talk about landmines, these are deadly weapons. And they don't just disappear after a war ends. More than 80%, more than 80% of landmine victims are civilian, including children who accidentally step on them. Okay. So more than 80% of mine victims are civilian. और जिसमें से सबसे ज़्यादा चिल्ड्रन होते हैं जो एक्सीडेंटली उसके ऊपर स्टेप कर देते हैं, है ना. उस पर अगर आप स्टेप करते हो, फिर अगर कोई इस पे पर्सन उस पर स्टेप कर देता है लैंड माइन पे, और फिर जब वो फिर उसमें ब्लास्ट हो जाता है. ओके. Secondly, many countries, including the US, have reduced financial aid for clearing old landmines. So this make it harder for affected regions to recover. अब बहुत सारे, अब जहां पे लैंडमाइन बिछा दिए जाते हैं उसके बाद उसको रिकवर करना होता है. वॉर जब खत्म होगी उसके बाद रिकवर करना होता है, ताकि जो सिविलियंस है वो एक्सीडेंटली इसके विक्टिम ना बन जाए. But many countries, like US, they have reduced the financial aid for clearing old landmines. So that is another concern. Okay. And when we talk about Europe, there's uncertainties growing. So this decision could lead to more military buildups and making the region less stable. पहले यूरोप को कहा जाता था कि सबसे स्टेबल रीजन है, पर आप देख रहे हो कि कैसे कैसे वॉर से बहुत सारी सिचुएशन एस्केलेट हुई हैं, एंड जो रीजन है वो अनस्टेबल होता जा रहा है. नाउ व्हाट कैन बी डन? See, experts have suggested that organization like the International Red Cross, है ना, इंटरनेशनल रेड क्रॉस कमेटी हो गई, and United Nations, they are pushing for peace talks and safer alternatives to landmines. But the challenge is convincing countries that security can be maintained without these weapons is difficult. It's difficult to make them understand. Okay. So that's all for today, students. We have covered a lot, right? So from Greenland's new leadership and its struggle for independence to the dangers of landmines and why some countries are breaking international agreements, we have covered a lot. So these news, it reminds us that global events are connected, and even small decisions in distant places can have big impact, है ना? So I hope you learned something new today. So if you found this discussion interesting, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. Okay? So until then, stay curious and keep learning. We'll meet on next episode.